Um, oh, here we go. Um, my name is Chris. I'm from the Association for Information Science and Technology Student Chapter. The format of tonight, we're going to start, basically we have a couple of topics. We're going to do introduction question, and then there will be discussion time between the editors so that they can answer the questions. And then after every question, feel free to put your questions in the chat and I can give a voice to them, or you can unmic yourself. Topics, as you can see, why should we seek publication? What is open access? How does the review process work for each of our publications? What you should know as a first-time author, and the difference between the publications. So our editors today are Odin from the Student Research Journal and Katrina from ARCHEOTA. We're gonna let them start off with just saying a little bit about each of their publications.
Thank you all for being here, first off. So yeah, my name is Odin Halvorson. I am really excited to be here. And I want to say, first off, just thank you so much to Chris for setting this up. So the Student Research Journal, or SRJ, is the foremost double-blind, peer-reviewed, open access journal that is both developed and led by current graduate students of the SJSU iSchool. So our goal is really threefold. First, we want to empower budding researchers, people who aren't quite sure what this is all about and are, still finding their feet in this world. But we also want to make sure that we're publishing relevant content of really high quality. So we're pushing our authors to actually meet professional standards. And then finally, we're really looking to try to build and expand into an international community of student researchers. I don't think student researchers necessarily get, quite as much credit for the work that they do. And that's one of the things that that SRJ is really excited about creating, or those connections as well. So it's going to be a blast to chat some more with everyone tonight about that.
I'm managing editor of ARCHEOTA. This is associated with the Society of American Archivists student chapter. So that is the student group on campus, and it publishes a newsletter and different things now and then. And ARCHEOTA is where we accept things from other students. It is original writing by San Jose State students, and it focuses on archives, but really broadly anything sort of related to archives. So things from I visited this archive and learned these things about it, to I read this book that talks about matters related to archives, to I'm doing this work myself in archives.
So our first question, or questions: what are the advantages of being published? Who should actively be working towards publication, and which jobs look for publication history?
Is starting with from a student focus is its evidence for your e-port. Things that I produced for the student group, I included in as my evidence, and working with the different student publications meant that I was getting feedback on my writing, so that it was giving me another chance to sort of grow as an author. So that's one reason I would encourage any student to do that, just to grow as a writer and grow your academic voice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think that that's all really important. Publishing in general has a lot of, I think, major career advantages, but it's important to remember that as we're students here in this program, and I'm assuming a lot of the people who are here in the channel are current SJSU students, it's really useful for your e-portfolio. And as I'm getting closer to graduation myself, I'm looking at what those requirements are and how you can actually fold in all of this material into that that final project. So that's a great one. But I also think, like, so for your larger career, this is something that I don't think I've seen as many people in kind of professional librarianship talking about as much as maybe they should. I think we all know that for like law librarians and academic librarians, publishing is really important for any sort of career advancement that you ever want to have. But I'm currently working in the public sector, and none of, or not none, but very few of my public library peers are quite aware of actually how beneficial it can be to have your work out there. I don't know, Katrina, if that's something that you find as well.
Well, it's, taking the research class and then doing the reflections for the e-port, research is happening all the time. People are learning about how to be, better librarians or more effective or better strategies all the time. So if you're just, keeping that to yourself, then only a small group is benefiting, right? But when you're publishing it and putting it out there, there's, you're joining this conversation of this is how we do this work. I think it's really valuable.
I had a conversation with one of the counselors at the school to, talking about what was going on with my graduation and everything. And I talked to them about this event, and I thought it was really interesting. They put it in terms of, there are certain professions, like you said, where the academic librarianship or the law librarian, you have to. It's a part of the job. It's publish or perish, right? But you have all of these other librarians, like Katrina was talking about, that are, and archivists who are learning, and you can help others out through your writing. And it does situate you as an expert in your field and something that you can point to, right? And put on not just your e-portfolio, but you could put that on your resume, depending on what it is and how that helps you within the new jobs that you're looking for.
Hugely. I'm looking like at the screen there, and I'm seeing nonprofit is on the screen, and I think one of the things that you end up realizing when you start working with nonprofits is that they're super community centered, and a really good community is all about, as we all went through in Info 200, it's all about information sharing and finding ways to share that knowledge within the community and then farther without the community too. I do think that the benefit goes so far in just helping other people learn. This school isn't a research school, right? It's a trade school. We are learning a very functional trade. But within that, I just don't want people to miss the bead on how exciting it can be to share what you're learning, and at the same time maybe share things that, because you're actually actively practicing, are things that, you're how do I want to say it? Your nose is to the ground, right? You are in the thick of things. So you might be discovering stuff that isn't quite there for researchers, or you may be able to collaborate in ways that expand the field. So I get really excited about that side of things personally.
It also puts you in a conversation with other people who are writing and editing, who are interested in publishing, who are interested in, the research and that type of learning and reflection, the community and the network that develops because of that.
Yeah, it is. I think that is an interesting aspect for sure, where it is this, especially if you're like more of like an introverted person who maybe doesn't want to talk to people directly, it could be a really powerful way to network, right? Because people could see your research out there and be like, oh, I'm going to use them as a reference, and they see your name out there and you're getting name recognition.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I think we did cover this slide before. It was a little out of order, but let's move on to what is open access and why does it matter to me as an author?
So this is fun. Did you want to start this one off, or
No,
should
go
I
ahead.
grab it? Okay, all right. So open access sort of broadly is referring to this trend within academic publishing, within all types of scholarly publishing, that has taken publishing towards a freely available model, especially for digital and online journals. So the old model of scholarly publishing had a lot of fees associated with it. The authors had to pay, the readers had to pay, everybody had to pay. It was very hard to access, very hard to get your work out there. That type of gatekeeping is what's being directly challenged by open access publishing. As you can see here, you've got the accessible, usable, equitable. That is a kind of a general cornerstone, the tripod that is holding all of this up. Now there's a lot of stuff happening. Works with different restrictive copyright and licensing barriers, so this can get to become a pretty complex discussion. But what's just really exciting is this general trend that we are seeing towards more accessible information, because we do know that the more information is easily accessed, the stronger our community is, the better research the more change we can have in the world. It's actually a pretty simple equation there. But open access in particular has several different levels there. So we've got the green open access, gold open access, diamond, and then bronze. Bronze is that really even open access? It's more like a free trial. That's, it's not really a thing. Diamond is what we really want the entire field to eventually transition to, because diamond means that we have just removed the money principle from this completely, and we are focused purely on knowledge sharing, research, and building communities. That's really key. Right now, we do have a lot of kind of green or gold, though, open access journals out there in the world, and some hybrid models. There's also more complexity in terminology. Libre and gratis, you might get thrown around if you are digging your nose into this material, but Diamond is the model that we're actually able to do at the SRJ, because any sorts of fees that we might have are kind of absorbed by either the institution or absorbed in other ways by other companies that have given us completely free access to really powerful software. For instance, we use software. I think ARCHEOTA might use bpress as well. Is that true, Katrina?
I think yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Yeah, it was the same.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your backend looks like, but yeah, this one company, bpress, is just amazing. They gave us completely free access to their material, to their software really early on. And so things like that, things like SJSU giving us support, that allows us to be completely free at all levels. So this is me rambling on. I am a huge nerd for this sort of thing.
Well, I think that was pretty good coverage. Katrina, do you have anything to add to that, or do you think we're good to go?
No, I don't think I have anything to add.
All right. Why would a paper get rejected? How many revisions are allowed? And who's reviewing my paper if I submit it? So this one does start off with Student Research Journal.
Oh, oops. All right, I'm going to do a lot of talking in one row here. I'll try to keep this a little bit more brief. So right here you have our general flow for what happens when you submit work to us. So let's say you've worked on a piece. Maybe we get a lot of Info 200 papers, right? Because working on those kind of gives you that sense of, oh, I'm doing some scholarly work. Info 200 doesn't actually have you finish a paper, though. That's something really important that I want to stress for anyone here who's listening to this, either now or recorded. Info 200 gets you kind of halfway to a publishable paper, or at least to a polished version that you could submit to us. It doesn't usually ask you to go a little bit deeper into methodology and actually doing your own research. So let's assume, though, that you've gone that extra step and you've polished something that you're proud of. You send it to us. That goes straight to me, first off. I review it. I make sure that it's within our scope. I make sure that it's not missing something. I make sure that it has line numbers. Very basic stuff. And then I pass that off to our managing editor. And our managing editor reviews it and then assigns it out to content and copy editors. So the content editors review for, structure, theme, some larger material. And our, of course, copy editors are focusing in on the nitty-gritty, the grammar, that sort of stuff. So then our editors, they spend some time with that. It usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks to get responses from them. Then what they're working with are very specific rubrics that they kind of go through to make sure that, your paper has hit all these different criteria. They write up their feedback, they suggest those determinations, and then they return all that to the ME. The ME then takes this, and the ME's job is to turn all of this material into something called a consolidated referee report, or CRR. This is pretty standard in the, peer review publication world. The beginning of the CRR will summarize everything, kind of give you a very clear view of what needs to happen at a bird's eye view. And then you will also have access to all of the other work that the editors have done. So you can actually go in and see those nitty-gritty details and start making those changes and improving your work. That's about the point when I get involved again. I send that to you, and then we just repeat that process ad nauseum until your piece is ready to go. That last part isn't actually how all peer review publications work. Oftentimes, if your piece isn't kind of living up to snuff right away, it might just get rejected. The Student Research Journal really tries to have an educational approach to this. So we will, as long as you're working with us in good faith, we'll pretty much work with you in good faith until your piece is published, as long as you're showing improvement and it's actually really turning into solid research. So I can jump to the next slide. So let's see here. Yeah, this is kind of, I already mentioned this, but you really should know that there has never been a paper submitted to us that was just like, oh yeah, that's perfect, we're ready to go. Not one. We always have work that needs to be done on it. And that's actually a really good thing. That's what we're here for. You want to submit to us so that you can learn what this whole process is about and become a better writer. Something that some students get a little worried about is that we're a graduate-only journal. Well, the graduate student-only journal. That doesn't mean that you have to finish your work with us and publish before you graduate. I have a couple of authors who, they didn't actually get their piece published until about 2 years after they had submitted to us. So, you can just keep working with us for a while. So what do we actually take? We take research manuscripts, book reviews, and evidence summaries. Evidence summaries can seem a little confusing until you kind of get into what, into the detail of what they are, but they're really just focusing in on a single article and really trying to examine its argument. Book reviews, we don't want just I like this book. We want a really detailed scholarly approach to the book with your own thoughts about how the actual arguments in the book hold up and shape up. And then research manuscripts, that's kind of that broad gamut. It could be anything from a really detailed literature review to actual original research. Like we had some in our last issue where someone did their own research study at a couple of different schools and really came out with some really interesting evidence for DEI work in public libraries, actually. So that's it for the SRJ.
It's a good overview. So let's move on to ARCHEOTA.
So here's my simplified version. ARCHEOTA is a more direct process. It's usually going to happen within one semester. Sometimes it'll be pushed to a second semester, but it's a pretty quick turnaround. First, you're going to propose an idea. We have a biannual call for papers that usually comes out in an email. And then you would just email our ARCHEOTA Gmail with your idea. And somebody in one of the Discords was like, well, what does a proposal look like? And it's just like, I'm interested in doing a article book review about this. And just then that's coming to me. And then we're going to, email or talk or something about your idea. So some people say, I have this idea, I'm ready to go on it. It's like, great, put it together. Otherwise, we might set up a Zoom, kind of talk through it a little bit more and help develop what that proposal looks like. The second step is write, and I wanted to find something that represents how open-ended this piece is, because it is just like, I have an idea, and then it's like, great, show it to us. So this is, like, what do I do here? You write something, put out, we're looking for about 800 to 1,000 words. What do you know about archives? And we're really looking from a personal experience. What are you seeing? What are you reading? And so you have about a month from that proposal to when we're looking for a final product. And so, yeah, you write something and put it out there. If we are getting a ton of proposals, that's when we might push it to a later issue, or we might say like, oh, these are too similar, so let's have this one now and this one later. But generally, we're putting things out within about 2 months of your first proposal. So once you submit that, that's when we're going to review. This part is a little bit similar, but not as rigorous as student research journal. So you are going to be working, I'm reading things as they come in and then assigning it to 2 editors. Someone's going to be looking at the content. Someone's going to be looking at the mechanics. And this is a more collaborative process. We're going to be making suggestions. We'll ask you for, maybe more information, or if you can send in images. And then once we've kind of agreed on what the content looks like in that collaborative piece, then then the editors are formatting, writing, and preparing it for publication. And then you would receive an email when the piece is published, and that's about 2 or 3 months after your initial proposal.
Awesome. So it looks like we've got a question in chat. Is it fair to say that it might be a good idea to start with publishing in ARCHEOTA to test the waters a bit, and then move to SRJ if we enjoy it or want to research more deeply? It sounds like that's something that could be done, certainly, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely could be. Either way could be done, because in both cases, you're going to be getting some feedback and some shaping for your writing process. You might want to submit to student research journal first. It's a longer process. You're going to have more feedback and time with it. So either way, this is sort of a lower bar to entry, right? So it's a quicker turnaround. And so, yeah, either way, though, both are good options.
Yeah, I did know that without adding really too much. I think they fulfill slightly different roles. I've published things in journals that are more similar to ARCHEOTA as well, and I love that. It's a wonderful process working with editors in that way to produce work. So both.
Why not start it both ways? I feel like this section has potential for more questions because it was kind of a little more involved. So if anyone has any questions and wants to type that in the chat or wants to unmute themselves to ask directly, feel free to do that. Okay. So the next question, what should a first-time author know before they get started? Let's see. We did just finish with ARCHEOTA, so
Okay.
Odin, would you like to start this one off?
Sure. So things to remember as a first-time author. Check the submission guidelines. This is not necessarily just as a first-time author, but as a first-time submitter, perhaps. Sometimes it can seem like extra work. And I remember those days myself, submitting my work. I'd already written it. I'd already done the thing. I just want to get into it. But please actually read the submission guidelines carefully. We're a little more forgiving at SRJ, and I feel like maybe ARCHEOTA is as well, where we'll kind of work with you and help you. That is not necessarily the case out there in the professional world. If I'm a short story writer, if I submit short stories to a magazine or a journal and I haven't done the work to read their, instructions, it's an auto reject. And that's not anything about you as a person or even necessarily the quality of your work. It's just, this is what the editors need to make their life easier. So this may seem like an odd thing to harp on as things to remember for a first-time author, but it really is the thing that I see the most. Read the submission guidelines. Yeah.
And I would add on to that. So I said, sort of low bar to entry, but there are things that we reject, and that is academic papers. If you wrote it for a class, it doesn't belong in ARCHEOTA. Other thing, we publish San Jose State students, so people submit from other places, and those are also auto reject. So there are definitely check the submission guidelines.
Yeah, that is really huge. You don't want to get excited about writing something and then send it in and not have it,
Right.
be a good fit. Uh, I do think, yeah, I really love the model your work here. Did you see that too, Katrina, on the slide there? I really think model
Mhm.
your work is something that I would agree with.
Yeah, look back at, past issues and see what has already been published. Um, um, yeah, what styles did you like? What fits with your interests? Um, and yeah, see how you can develop along the lines of the things that you enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're doing this publishing, if you're getting into this work of trying to publish your thoughts, your ideas, you know, you don't want it to be, and we talked a little bit earlier about like what this can get you, what does it do for you to publish? But I think if you go in with that, I've seen people who are just trying to produce something that is going to help them, polish their resume a little bit. And those kind of papers are actually invariably way worse than someone who is coming in kind of innocent of how to actually write, but are excited about what they're writing. Like I prefer the novice writer who loves what they're trying to do over the writer who's just thinking, I need this on there so that I can get that job at so and so place. So modeling that work is really important. Not like I think Katrina hit the nail on the head. Like model it for what the journal wants as well. So read some of their pieces, but also just write what matters to you. Focus on those topics, and your work is going to be better automatically. That's my take.
I found it interesting. I was watching some of the Meet the Editors that ASIS&T puts on for the larger organization. And one of the things that the editor for the JASIST publication was saying was, if you have a question, that's kind of like a simpler thing to answer about whether or not you would be a good fit for the publication, you can always send an email. And it was definitely not a send your whole paper sort of a thing. But if you give them like the abstract and the title and you say, hey, I've written this, I think it could be a good fit. Would you mind looking at this abstract, which of course is, typically like a paragraph tops. And tell me if you think that it's worth submitting to you guys, and that can help you. And they're able to, not have to go through the whole process of going through the entire paper just to be like, this is not for us, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and I would second that. Just reach out early with, I have this idea. What do I do with it? When the authors that are submitting to this issue are saying, is it okay if, can I just reach out to someone? Do I, what sort of permissions do I need to interview? And so all of those things, yeah, reach out with those questions. But yeah, it is, it's okay to not know and just put yourself out there as wanting to try.
Absolutely. Yeah, I highly second that. I touched on this a moment ago, but one of the reasons things can get rejected if they're not perfectly formatted is because editors are busy. Oftentimes they're volunteers. Even if they're paid, they're probably not getting paid that much. So one of the things that we actually like are finding ways to help you help us, right? At least that's how I usually look at it. If you're sending me a full article and it's really not a good fit, well, that may waste my time reading it and double checking it for scope and everything. But if you check in with me first and you say, hey, here's what I want to work on, I'm happy to read that paragraph and tell you, yes or no right away. Chances are I might actually even send you towards other journals that are better fits. That is something that other editors have done for me, and it meant a lot. Your work is good, it's just not for us, is going to be one of the things as a writer you're going to start to look forward to actually hearing, because that that's real connection right there. And that's really what you want from your work.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard. Like, if you come from maybe not the most academic background and you're trying to get into writing, like, um, for myself, like the first time that I wanted to submit to somewhere, I was just like, I'm feeling weird about this. My undergraduate degree was in art. Like, yeah, I feel like such a phony about it. So it's good to know that you can reach out, and more than likely someone's going to be appreciative of that. Certainly. So we do have a question. Does SRJ and ARCHEOTA have themes for volumes and issues?
ARCHEOTA does not. Sometimes there will be things that sort of emerge as something a lot of people are interested in. So we get a lot of submissions around a certain idea, but there isn't a specific theme.
Same for the SRJ. We've fielded the idea of having theme issues. It's something that I've seen done in the past that have been really exciting. I worked for Duende Literary out of Goddard for a little while, and they did a prison theme issue where they communicated with people who are in prison to solicit work directly from them, which was really extremely difficult process. It actually required going through the prison security guidelines. So everything had to be in paper. Everything had to be, it was very, very slow process. So anyway, it was exciting, but, complex. Other issues aren't necessarily that complex, but right now we get a steady trickle of articles. And I would say that instead of being able to kind of hold on to any of them and keep them for a specific issue, we find really what Katrina just said, like there's an ebb and the flow in the world, and we just kind of ride that.
So, all right. Another question. Have you had writers successfully modify an academic paper that ended up being accepted?
For ARCHEOTA, it's much more of a personal essay tone. So just academic papers don't really fit the style of the journal. It's much more about individual experiences. So there are things that have grown out of internships, or I would say even more informal writing for classes that have, it grew from a blog post to this is my personal experience with doing this thing. But that's not really the scope of ARCHEOTA. So we don't get a lot of academic papers.
And I do feel like that was a question for ARCHEOTA, so I'm not going to answer.
Because you had answered before, where obviously sometimes you have the Info 200 papers and things like that that'll show up. All right, let's go. How do we choose which publication is right for us? Let's start with Student Research Journal, since you're
That seemed to have gotten placed. Okay.
Yes, you have.
All right. So it says it here a little bit, right? And this is stuff that you've probably already gleaned from our talk, but you can be a graduate student anywhere in the world. We accept, as long as you're a graduate student, we accept your work. So we've had quite a few submissions from folks in India. We've had submissions from folks in the UK. One of the institutional accounts that connects to us and looks at our journal the most is actually the University of Edinburgh. So, wherever you are in the world, check out the work here. If it's something you want to be involved in, send in your work. I'd say the biggest one, though, is if you want to experience peer review process within a really supportive environment. This isn't to just totally stamp on all peer review articles, or journals out there. Some of them are very supportive, but not always. It's a bit of a hit and miss. With the SRJ, what I'm hoping for as the current editor-in-chief is that we always have a very supportive space where we are trying to help you grow and really learn what the peer review process is like and the ins and outs. By the time you're done with this, you should be able to submit to peer review anywhere in the world professionally, and you'll at least have a pretty good chance of knowing what to expect. And then I'm sure Katrina will mention this too, but it's also just bomb for your e-portfolio.
And if you are interested in submitting to ARCHEOTA, you are a current San Jose State student who's interested in archives. You would have an idea or a personal experience to share about archival work, and fairly independent and conscientious. So that sort of that big question mark piece of like, I have an idea and I'm going to follow through with it. And yeah, someone who wants to have their work out in the world and more evidence for their e-port.
Awesome. All right. So this is the time. If we have any questions that need to be answered out in the chat, it's a good time to write them down. Let's see. Does ARCHEOTA ever take submissions with multiple authors?
Yes. Yeah, that's we had two people submit a fairly similar interest. So it was like, why don't you guys work together on this? That's a great strategy.
Very cool. Is there a limit to how many times you can submit?
Not for the SRJ.
I'm gonna ask, is this specific to one, and is this talking about resubmissions or just possibly like multiple articles as well? Maybe we can talk
It
about?
was for both. I was just curious if is there a limit within one semester? So in one semester in either journal, can you submit 3 papers and it just like all 3 of them could be accepted and placed at some point in time, or?
So did you want to jump in there?
Oh, so yeah, I would say go ahead and submit, and yeah, we might publish one and hold one for another semester, or pick what's the best fit. But there's no limit, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, it's really the same for us. Now we don't take reprints. So Chris, that was a good point to mention. We're only doing original work. But like if you wanted to write up 3 pieces and submit them to us, great. Even better if they are within different categories. You send us a book review, an evidence summary, and an original piece of research, all within one semester. I'm not going to raise an eyebrow at that, except to say, wow, this person is going places. What I will say is, if you're going to submit work, like that. If you're going to submit a lot of work to us, make sure it's your best work. That doesn't mean that it has to be perfect or anything, but it does need to be your best. And I need to be able to see enough difference in it. I need to be able to see a reason why you are submitting 3 things. They have to be distinct, good pieces of scholarly work. Otherwise, my eyebrow will raise, and we'll have to have a chat before we can move forwards.
Great. So we have another question. Are either journals looking for editors currently?
Not currently. We put out a call for editors before we set out our call for articles. So it's another thing, watch your email, because we will say, hey, we're looking for people.
And we are looking for editors. So if you are in the iSchool right now and are excited about becoming an editor, learning what this process is like, we are interested in having, especially right now, copy or content editors. We have some requirements for our editors. We strongly prefer that they have already taken or are currently taking Info 285, which is the research methods course. I will allow some flexibility with that if you've had prior professional or academic experience in research, because that often happens here at the iSchool. People are coming to this with 2 master's degrees under your belt. I'm not gonna force you to take this one introductory class. But yeah, you just reach out if you're curious or you're not sure if your experience qualifies. Reach out to me directly. I'm happy to take a look at your experience and see if you're a good fit.
To piggyback off of that question, I guess, is there a typical time in the semester when that email would come out for ARCHEOTA? Is that like an end of semester thing, beginning of semester thing?
It's closer to the beginning. I want to say it came out at the beginning of March.
Interesting. All right. Any last questions? We're coming up. We got 9 more minutes at this point.
I'm actually curious for anyone out there in the audience, if anyone has previously been published, if they've already done this and they're coming to this with some experience.
Ooh. So we did get 2 more questions
Oh, I
as
love
soon as
that.
you asked that. So we
It's
can
amazing.
so we can circle back to that to see if anyone has been. We have a question. I plan to take 285 next semester. Must I pass the course? Is it okay to be in it? I'm guessing that's to be an editor.
Yeah. So you can be concurrently enrolled and we'll accept you as an editor. We accept that experience. We sort of expect that if you are in one of the classes at the iSchool, you're probably going to pass the class at the iSchool. That might not happen for extenuating reasons, but most people do. So it's not an issue that's come up. So yeah.
Okay. And then let's see. Can a person consider applying for an editorial position, be in another discipline, or only MLIS? And actually, that brings up another point as well. We do have ASIS&T is a little bit broader in scope than a lot of the other student groups. So we have informatics students and MARA students. Are they able to get be an editor in either, or get published in either journal?
Any and all of those are yeah, it's possible, yeah, for any and all of those to be published or an editor.
And the same here. Oh, sorry.
One thing we do look for is if you're a member of the Society of American Archivists. So that is part of our host organization. So
yeah, we're excited to have anyone who, as long as you're a current graduate student with the school. Yeah.
Very cool. Let's see. So we've got some other questions that I can pull from. Okay. So we had a question of how are the most popular articles organized? And on the SRJ website, you guys have the most popular articles posted on your website?
So this is an interesting question. It's a little bit less of a question for the journal versus, our web design, I suppose. Right now we host our entire website through our submissions manager. So we have an archive that you can just look through chronologically for our issues. And then we have a feature issue. So it's the latest issue that was published. So if you go right now to scholarworks.sjsu.edu/iSchoolSRJ, you're going to find our feature image right there for our last issue. We are in the process of altering our website and having a different landing website where you can explore what we do in a little bit more of a modern web format and allow BPress to really do what it's really fantastic at, which is the submission managing side of things. So it's an interesting idea. Maybe I'll see if we can have a curated selection of our favorites or something.
Interesting.
And yes, I will share that.
Oh, and we do have a document. I don't know if Rana or Kay, you can put the document that has links to the SRJ, ARCHEOTA, and some other helpful places on campus, such as the Writing Center, which does have tutoring sessions. I believe as master's students, we can get up to 3 sessions per week, and they're 1-hour sessions. So that's a really great resource if you're wanting to work on your writing. So how long on average does it take for you guys to like put together an issue for publication?
Let's see, from that first call for editors to publication can be from 4 to 5 months.
We put out so we put out 2 issues a year. So that's a kind of at the full issue level. When exactly the issue is released each year has fluctuated a little bit over our life cycle. So, you
Same.
know, yeah, it just happens, I think, you know,
Yeah.
especially, yeah. We right now, our current cycle is to release January, May, which makes things a little bit top heavy. So we might pull it back this year to December, which would actually make 3 issues for this year, but might actually realign with a slightly more stable release schedule. It takes, I don't so to actually like get the issue together itself, though, like that is a process of around 3 weeks, I would say, for me, from start to finish. You know, I get a draft together with everything that I already have ready, all the pieces that are already cleared. And then there's that 3 weeks period is for any final issues that are still in the pipeline that might be going through their final revisions. You know, we have a submission from a faculty member that we try to do every issue. So maybe that needs a little bit more work or something. So that 3 weeks is just the scramble.
Nice. So I'm gonna do one last call because we got 2 minutes left. So if there are any pressing questions from hopefully some of our future published writers in this group, and of course, as we said in the presentation, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to either of these publications for to get help, to submit ideas, to see, is my paper going to the right place if I send it to you? All of these things. Or if you're looking to be an editor as well.
Great.
Looks like that's a wrap for Meet the Editors. Thank you so much for contributing, you guys, and holding this conversation. ASIS is really excited about, like, one of our core tenets is about research and getting scholarly communication out there. So we really appreciate having this conversation with you all.
It's been a real
Thanks for
pleasure to be
inviting
here.
me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone for joining.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.